Shalom.
Howdy.
How are you, Antonio?
Pretty good. I think I need to adjust my volume real quick.
Cool.
How about yourself?
I'm well. I'm well. Sounds like we both got our families to sleep, and now it's time to talk about Noahide Accelerationism.
Yeah, I thought that was that's an intriguing title.
I mean, it's like tongue in cheek. I don't know.
I like it.
Messianism, accelerationism. It's all the same thing. Young God. It's good. It's good. So maybe we'll open it up to the larger group, but wanted to maybe spend a few minutes just talking about the Noahide path. It's been a while since we've had a stream. Yeah. What's I mean, we've chatted recently, but this is sort of our chance to bring it out to the wider audience. Where should we start?
Well, I was just thinking too. Man, really would have been nice to have Billy on too. I'm pretty sure he won't be able to make it tonight, but because a lot of this was started from a one-on-one conversation I had with him not too long ago, and so I guess that's what I want to start with. Basically, where Noahidism is going, and kind of the general missions for a Noahide. And despite how busy I've been, haven't really spent too much time thinking about this kind of stuff, or even keeping up with the corner and the Jordan Peterson sphere.
Yeah.
It just, for some reason, the last month or so, it's been on my mind. I've been thinking about how Noahides might one day be integrated and streamlined into something like synagogues or with the Jewish community. So that's kind of like the capital N Noahide stuff, which I think is important. I think that's kind of what Billy and I talked about a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious. What do you think, like in terms of Noahide community or like communal worship or prayer? Do you think the future model is going to be more of a sort of a non-Jewish / Gentile space in a synagogue, like very tied into the Jewish community proper, or will it be more of like a Noahide church or a Noahide gathering or community that is entirely or primarily non-Jewish with like some kind of a pastor-esque figure?
Yeah, I actually think it can go either way or even both ways. But I think no matter what, it's going to be overseen by a rabbi, 100%. I know when we did the video series of Hezi some time ago now, the term Noahide sage came up, and I still don't know if there are really any Noahide sages. I actually do think there are arguably lowercase Noahide sages for sure.
Yeah. Who's an example of that?
I kind of consider Jordan Peterson and Vervaeke to be sages in their own ways, just because of what they know and what they get to offer, as far as like insight into, like, for example, it's because of Vervaeke I kind of looked into, I forget the guy's name. It's a Piaget, but basically he kind of was working on the stages of development, cognitive development for children.
Yep.
So it kind of made me think about that with my own personal life. Not going to say it's been like, I don't really raise my kids by a textbook, but it's been useful, I should say.
Yeah.
And then Jordan Peterson goes without saying, a lot of what he said has been very useful. So
yeah. One of the other things we've been thinking about and talking about is Sam's recent series on moralistic therapeutic deism,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
that'd
if
be a good one to bring up.
yeah, one, can that sort of paradigm be reclaimed, at least in the U.S. And is it conducive or even identical to what is like the Noahide path? Um,
I
I mean,
definitely see a collision course.
yeah. So say more about that.
Well, I think they're not necessarily synonymous, but
Yep.
I do think it will be synonymous. I could be 100% wrong, but that's where I kind of see it going. And I'm not sure how far in the stream we'll get to that point of talking about what I personally see is going to happen, or at least what I think logically is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of questions that I don't have answers to because I just don't know,
Yeah.
which is kind of why I wanted to have this stream because I wanted to unpack some of this stuff.
Um, where would you start unpacking?
Well, so I guess if we go with starting with Sam's video
Yeah.
on MTD, which I'm just going to say MTD for short.
MTD. Yeah. Yep.
Earlier today, I kind of noticed that you could rearrange the letters and say DMT as well, but
That's funny.
uh, yeah. Then I thought of Alex Jones right away, but
Can't call it MTD. Excuse me. Yeah.
but no, in all seriousness, I think it was great he did these videos. He basically very effectively articulated what we kind of all know, and even if we didn't know it intellectually, like many people probably have in this online space, I think a lot of people have intuited the shift. Like even my wife, who doesn't spend much time online, I mean, she essentially agrees with the idea that growing up we had a very different culture, a shared culture, and God was kind of in the background, the foreground. Uh, it was just kind of like a no brainer. If you didn't think God was there, you're kind of like, okay, you're kind of weird. And then now, I mean, now it's a little crazy. I think it's there's another shift happening, but we're still living in this, I guess, highly secularized world,
Yeah.
and we haven't exactly reached the logical endpoints of these what I kind of consider foolish ideas now.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, what's going to be after this secular phase? So maybe like a post secular. I really don't like to just start throwing post into my terminology. There's so many like postmodernism and postmodernism,
Yeah.
but I think it is fitting here. I think there will be like a post secular type of world that will it probably won't happen overnight, but
Yeah. I did too. I think I was talking to you about how I wonder if how compatible um the Noahidism, let's just call it for the sake of argument, is with Christian nationalism, particularly the Christian nationalism like maybe espoused by like a Doug Wilson, right, where you have a lot of um, let's call it Hebrew Bible um, basis for law and uh, how to order civilization. And, in some ways, that's not incompatible with the Noahide path, right? Um,
yeah,
at the same time, like where's the boundary between where it's like proper Christian? And that's why I think that the moralistic therapeutic deism is interesting, because I think every ideology has a moralistic um, frame. I think we're all moralistic, just generally, like as a species, as a people. Um, Therapeutic, I kind of take to be more of like personal piety, spirituality. And then the deism piece is kind of the theology or the orientation towards God. And so I don't know. All those things have kind of been like swirling around in terms of, are they reconcilable? Is it a good thing? I mean, I'm not really on the Christian nationalist train personally. Like,
Yeah, but just
um,
for the sake of argument or as a thought exercise.
yeah, or like yeah, would I be down with that? Like, could it work? Um, is it good or bad for? I mean, certainly, like, is it good or bad? Like the most obvious and most relevant, I think, is it good or bad for the Jewish population in that state? Um, but the Noahide one is also, I mean, relevant to us in particular. Um, really quickly, I'm going to go through.
Yeah.
I want to say hi to Sandy.
Hey, Sandy.
Um, do Noahides believe in Jesus Christ? Antonio and I don't. It's possible that some do. That is a difficult and complicated question.
Generally, no.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that would say I'm a
Trans Jew.
Noahide, yeah, are Noahides trans Jews. I haven't thought much about that, but could be. Chickens for Chick-fil-A vibes. I don't know what that means. Peterson talked about hierarchies, and so there are levels to this. That's probably true. Levels to everything. Why not just convert to Judaism? This is about bacon, eh? Well,
Well, the better question is why would I convert to Judaism, or why would a Gentile convert to Judaism? That's really the more
um,
appropriate question.
I think that's always an interesting question, especially for the MTD crowd or the MTD culture that we live in. Like, everybody's always converting. You convert to this, you convert to that. Judaism has a different kind of conception of conversion. Does
It's a
not
different framing too.
different framing. Yeah, doesn't proselytize. Um, I mean, having been a bacon enjoyer for most of my life, I probably could I would be willing to make that sacrifice for a salty, fatty meat. There are others that aren't pork, but converting to Judaism, excuse me, is not required for anybody who's not Jewish. I mean, if they're Jewish, they don't convert, but they have obligations. So some people do, some people don't. Antonio and I are on the not particularly interested path, and that's totally fine. Lynn says, "I love the Noahide laws. It would conflict with the Trinity stuff." Well, yeah, perhaps. I think so.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, yeah. Um, what's new with your Noahide existence, Antonio?
Well, if we're kind of just talking about broader participation, I have been exploring a Freemason angle at the moment.
Yeah,
But that's not really specific to my particular religious path. But that's kind of why I think this stream is going, because I guess what I've been thinking about lately is that there's a lot of overlap between the uppercase Noahide and lowercase Noahide
yep.
uh, realms, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I guess if we're gonna jump back and forth a bit, like if we go back to the Christian nationalism
Yep.
question, I guess it all depends. Like, well, what do you mean by Christian nationalism? I know you're talking about that one guy's particular
Sure.
version of it.
Yep.
And my short answer is basically you might be able to get it to work on paper, but in practice, I think it just would not work. It would fail. And it's not even just because of a hunch, it's because in a real sense, Christianity kind of already had its shot. And the MTD that Sam was describing, I see as basically an echo of a religious tradition that uh, was kind of behind the founding fathers. And obviously, they didn't agree on they didn't have uniformity, but that's kind of the whole point of the MTD, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think um,
It wasn't particular to any one religion, but it was based on.
this is why I think that like the Noahide path saves Christian nationalism and MTD because
Gonna clip that.
yeah. Well, I
Just
haven't
kidding.
said anything yet, so you got the clip is yet to come. But uh, Christianity has had its shot, and I think what that really means is Christendom has had its shot and has been in decline, basically for the last 500 years. And it's like that Hemingway quote about bankruptcy. It's like, how did you go bankrupt? It's like gradually and then all at once. And I think for the past 500 years, um, Christian political power, earthly power, has faded. Um, that's true of Protestantism, like in the U.S. in particular, with the with the Puritan and Calvinist kind of grounding and founding of the U.S., but that's faded away. The Catholic Church is on the decline. Um, right around Vatican II, whether or not Vatican II was the actual catalyst for that or just a reflection of the decline. So, like Christianity as an institution, as a political power, just does not have the relevance, the authority anymore. And so I think it remains to be seen what could fill in the gap, because there is still the movement out there of Christian nationalism, of the MAGA movement, for instance, and like various right wing kind of backlashes that are um, reactionary, more than even conservative, um, and it's possible that another institution will pick up that flag, carry that torch. And it may not be, the institutional Christian, the church, like kind of as it's been over the past, the first 1,500 years or so of the last 2,000, right? Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm putting my bets on Judaism, so.
Well,
uh,
it's been a safe bet for the last 2,000 plus years, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be the obvious bet, but in hindsight, it certainly has passed the Lind. It's got the Lindy effect.
I mean, monotheism's all over the world now. Uh, Christianity and Islam, two of the world's biggest religions, define themselves in relation to Judaism,
Yep.
and the Jews are miraculously still here, carrying the
Right.
Torah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows about the Jewish concepts of Torah, Messiah, right? Yeah. Christianity and Islam have both certainly done their part to bring consciousness of the God of Israel and the Torah to the world, um, and that's an interesting phenomenon, right? And something that Maimonides, the Rambam, like talked about, which is that you know, God runs the world, and God created Christianity, and God created Islam, and God created, you know, you and me and the sun and the moon and everything. So these things are all part of, you know, the simulation that we're in and the test that's running right now. And so, you know, I say Mazel Tov to the, you know, to the proliferation of the gospel generally, because it sets the stage for the Messianic age.
Yeah, great.
And I think that is, so the accelerationism piece of you know, why I named the stream is that, you know, we could be, you know, be in investing, right? It's often said that like being early is the same as being wrong, right? Like if you're too early, you lose all your money before, you know, you can actually be right. And you know, we're in a situation right now where we may be very early to a emerging phenomenon that, you know, like someone's got to be early. Someone's got to be out there pioneering. Someone's got to be out there, kind of just one node, you know, out there in the wilderness, like before everything else lights up and it becomes, you know, a quickly accelerating kind of phenomenon. So it's hard in this moment right now because either we're, you know, it's hubris, or we are just the ones who are particularly early relative to the rest of the population of the world. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard to think about, like, or it's hard to like contemplate, like kind of like, you know, why us, why me, why now, and but there are so many things going on in the world outside of even the Noahide phenomenon and emergence that are extremely apocalyptic in terms of Israel and biblical prophecy and all those kinds of things too. So, you know, we probably should try to find apartments in Jerusalem as soon as possible.
Well, personally, I'm not terribly worried about it, especially if you're saying we're early. But no, we could be early. We could be very early. Um, I like to think that we're not that early. Uh,
Yeah,
I was really uh intrigued, inspired by that one video that was shared in Jacob server a while ago. It was, who was it? I think it was Breidowitz, actually, Rabbi
yeah,
Breidowitz,
yeah,
about the date being like it might be wrong, and then
yeah.
he did he he put the theory out there that if it is wrong, and if you adjust for the amount of years that it might be off by, we're only like 50 years out from the Messiah showing up.
I gotta live to be 90.
That
It's
that
like,
got me
it's
going
close.
very messianic.
Yeah, it's very close. If I was 10 years old, I'd feel a lot better about that distance. But um, yeah, uh,
Well, I heard there are some views that you kind of want to be close to it, but you don't really want to be around right when it happens because it might get worse before it gets better, kind of a thing. I don't know too much about it, but I could have swore there was some type of uh, Jewish view on that or some opinion on that. So,
could be. Also sounds like some kind of Christian eschatology stuff where, you know, 7 years
like the rapture
tribulation.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, you don't want to be around. All right, let's go to the peanut gallery here. Don says, I'm not sure if the dietary restrictions or not using electricity on Saturdays would be the hardest part. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could probably deal with the dietary. It'd be annoying. Like, it'd be a lot of work because it's a pretty strict thing. Electric. Excuse me, I'm still getting over the sinus infection. Electricity on Saturdays, yeah. I don't know. Today I didn't use a lot of electricity. I put my phone away for most of the day and try to rest up, and it was nice. Closest I've ever gotten to keeping Shabbat. PVK was right. No way anyone pulls that off. Christian nationalism in the U.S. Probably. I know who Just Chad is, but where did Yeshua say the kingdom of heaven is? Exactly, no religion. Okay, maybe. Young God says, does Noahidism attract those who think logically? It seems like a religious path for those with intermediate faith. I mean, that, yeah.
Sounds like a very Christian question.
I mean, I get it.
I was not a Christian, so I don't understand this question.
Well, do you think it attracts those who think logically?
To be honest, I don't know. Like, the only Noahides who really know personally well enough would be you and Billy, and I mean the few who are on Jacob's server. I'm just now meeting people on the Facebook group, and I would say just by gauging by that group,
Yeah.
I would not say it's it's not all logically.
I think Noahidism does attract those who think logically, but not only those who think logically, right? It's not like it is not just for like the autistic or something, right? Like I think that wouldn't be fair. But I do think there are probably some who are logical, open-minded, whatever, who may adopt that path.
If I were to like, oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to address the second half too, like a religious path for those with intermediate faith. Again, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. Like I don't think it's a phenomenon of people who have sort of washed out of other things. There are Noahides who come from Torah observant Christianity. Who come from atheism, who come from, basically every religion. Certainly in the States, there is a predominant amount of like Protestants who are not necessarily like the Torah observant types, but like, Baptists and such. I think if you have a strong understanding of or like you spend a lot of time in the Hebrew Bible, that will certainly grease the skids to moving in the Noahide direction, I think.
I was just gonna say, if I were to try to draw some shared trait or feature, it'd be people who really take their faith seriously and their devotion to their religion. Like often it's not even people who are doubting necessarily. Like maybe they do. Obviously, they get to some point where they're doubting, but it's only because the tradition that they're in, they find it to not be as robust as they once thought it was. So these are people who I would think that just take the word of God very seriously, and they want to serve God.
Yeah. Don says that it's a path. Noahidism is a path for those who take seriously the Lord as one, and also find the Trinity insane and incoherent. So there's that. I mean, yeah, that's certainly true. Like, I think that if you read the book of Deuteronomy, assuming that Judaism is true, not Christianity, you might be very shocked by how much it confirms that worldview. I think that also, interestingly, the Noahide path is possibly a good path for those who have deconstructed Christianity or are like nuns, Nones nuns. like basically no religion, who are effectively atheist or sorry, agnostic, maybe atheist, but in a very soft sense, like I don't think God exists, whatever. But those who deconstruct and then reconstruct, some of those people like find Jesus and go to church, but other of those people maybe are like, okay, I believe in God, and I suppose like, which God. I think that, and this is the reason why I think we might already be in a Noahide / messianic or pre-messianic age, which is that like most people when they think about God, I think, are not thinking about some idol. They're thinking about the one God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the God of Israel, right? The God who gave the Torah to Moses at Sinai, and who, is the God of most of the religions of the world. So, I don't know that there's a lot of confusion these days about who God is, which is an interesting phenomenon relative to like probably history, or more distant history. All right, Claire's here. Islam is a Noahide religion. Generally true.
So is Christianity, arguably.
Well, Claire says that Christianity is the antithesis of the Noahide laws. I think probably Claire means the law that prohibits idolatry, but that is a nuanced question. It is only to be expected that those who break the first and second Noahide laws would find themselves breaking the rest. I don't know. So, what are the first two? Idolatry. What's the second one? I don't really know them in order.
I don't know. There's not really a particular order.
Yeah,
they will say it in a order, but
idolatry is blasphemy the second one. Probably. I'm gonna guess if it's Claire.
I'm gonna guess it's those two.
It's us two. The reason why someone would be a Noahide rather than Muslim must be Islamophobia. I don't know. I've thought about that.
What a leftist would say.
Who?
That's what a leftist would say for sure.
I think. The trouble for me with Islam would be the Muhammad question. So, otherwise, like, yeah, sure. Everything else seems okay. But if I don't think Muhammad was the prophet of Allah, it'd be tough. Johnny. All right, we're almost caught up here. The logic of Christian nationalism is a Christian amendment abolishing the First Amendment, something that would undo the work of the Founding Fathers. The First Amendment, which part about it? All it says is that the federal government will not establish a church. States can establish state churches if they want. I just don't think they have. But there's nothing that says like the nation can't be quote unquote Christian. They just can't establish a church. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, the Christian nationalism idea is just, when you brought it up, I'm always intrigued to hear how people are working that out. But like I said, I think that's a doomed project, and I think even a lot of Christians think that too.
All right, Claire. Islam is the rising power, and there are only two Abrahamic religions for Gentiles. The founding fathers were proto-Muslim. So, what are the only two Abrahamic religions for Gentiles? Islam and Christianity? All right, Young God says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, but hey. Yeah, I mean, establishment of religion. What do you mean by establishment of religion? In my best Jordan Peterson voice.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think about. So part of the reason why I put my bets on Judaism is that it has a particular element to it and a universal one. And
Yep.
I think that is notably absent in not just the other two Abrahamic religions, but I'd say any other religion. But that's why when I respond to the question, why don't you convert to Judaism? I ask the question back, why would I? Because it kind of breaks the common framing, which to me it's easily a Christian framing, but not surprisingly, this framing is actually it's just mainstream even among people who aren't Christian. It's kind of like a natural question to ask because there's this idea that you have to convert.
Here's a question, though, Antonio. Devil's advocate here. If you believe so much in this, why don't you just convert?
I mean, why would I? Like that because it only makes sense if you accept a certain framing. Because the premise of Judaism is that we're all God's children. Like we have a preordained path. And so just as much as there have to be Jews and Jews have a role.
Yeah, but if Judaism is so true, Antonio, why don't you actually just convert to Judaism?
I don't know how to answer your question, Jonathan.
Why sit here and just, pussyfoot around with masonry and, not going to church? Like, what's your problem?
I would say it's definitely not me that has the problem, but
yeah.
But I mean, on a side note, I have kind of, to me, I'm not gonna say that everyone who kind of presses that line is this way, but in a very real sense, it's kind of like you're not satisfied with what God expects of you, or what might expect of you. Like, what if it were the case that God did expect you to follow the 7 Noahide laws, and you're just like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're kind of prioritizing what you think should be over what actually is. So that's kind of what I think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are Gentiles who definitely feel called to do more, and they feel a special calling to Judaism, and they do convert. So,
sure.
That is the thing.
Yeah. I mean, they convert. People do convert. Jacob says that we have a couple of Muslims and even a Hindu. He might be referring to our community. Oh, he's behind and catching up.
Warp speed, 2 times speed.
Yeah, hit the 2.5x. We're talking slow. Secular Coranism is not a religion. So secular Noahidism, Claire. I think if you switched it to secular Noahidism, you would get converts, followers, and you could join us.
Yeah, join us, Claire. That's kind of like
a legal system that uncompromisingly supports the First Amendment and does not require you to change your religion. I mean, Sounds like Noahidism to me. Young God says, "Why would I?" Requires logic. Yep.
Yes,
Young God
and
wants one God. Young God wants more faith. I need more faith. True. Claire says that truth, logic, and morality requires us to choose secular cornism. Huge if true. I am going to go ahead, I think, unless you want to discuss anything more, Antonio. I can post the link in the chat.
well,
And
I
let
guess
the peanut gallery come in.
I'll just kind of say what I've been thinking of and what I think might be the case moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think this normal that we have, the secular, and it's such a loaded term, especially when I'm trying to describe what a future secular might be. So I've kind of debated using a different word, but I think secular is appropriate. I think it's just that the secular today is a detached secular. It's detached from a religious worldview or metaphysics, and that's why MTD was not. It had a shelf life because it was just an echo of a framework.
Yeah.
And when I say Christianity had its shot, you accurately somewhat corrected me and said Christendom had its shot. But I think the idea was like the founders did not want a theocracy. So
Right.
that's why I think, yeah, you can say, and I agree that Christian nationalism would be very un American. But I think they're kind of banking on, and I don't really mean literally, like I think they were actively banking on. I just think there was a sentiment that if this not religion nation was going to work, it would continue. Like this MTD that Sam was talking about would persist if Christianity was basically based. Is the way I'd put it. If it was robust, and I think time has already kind of given us the answer. It was one of the first questions I asked in Jacob's server, but in this general space when I entered it, when I was still an atheist, which was basically if the answer is to basically go back to traditional Christianity or something like that, didn't we already have that? And so why is it gone? And there were a lot of answers, but I just think the short of it is that Christianity did not hold up, and it's fine. Like I said, I think it had its shelf life, meaning it had its use, it had its purpose. Mazel tov, like you said. But now we're at this point where our secular dealings are borrowing from a religious framework that is no longer there, and it's been out of steam for a while, and so now we can't even definitively agree on like a lot of common sense questions like what's a man or a woman, or what's even considered good or bad, if there even is an objective notion of good and bad. And so I think on the other end of this will come out, because I'm an optimist about this, I think we're going to come out more sophisticated religiously, and I think it's going to be with Judaism personally, because like we mentioned earlier, well, two reasons. One, Judaism has the universal element. It does not require anyone to change religions, like whatsoever. And then on top of that, everyone recognizes the God of Israel, no question. So
I feel like we need to get some stuff set up on like Polymarket so we can start placing bets. Yeah.
Speaking of bets, just kidding.
What?
I don't want to get into the NBA stuff that I heard about.
Oh, yeah. Chauncey Billups, Michigan. Yay. All right. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Jacob says, I think a large group of Muslims could go Noahide once they realize that the Quran doesn't really work with much of modern Islam, especially as it works with Jews in Israel. I think that sounds right. Lynn shared a popcorn emoji. I'm not sure what that was in reference to. Claire says, if God gave us the First Amendment, he does not expect us to reject his gift. I'm not sure that the First Amendment was a gift, but okay. If I convert to Islam, says Claire, I would undermine my claim that secular Quranism is a legal system. Okay, sure. Young God says the correct answer, as always, is to do nothing. I'm not sure what that's in reference to specifically, but kind of dark, kind of cynical. Claire says secular Noahidism would come into conflict with the First Amendment. I don't think so. Explain that, Claire. Yeah, what else? What other topics have we not covered yet that we should quickly cover before we let randos in?
I think that was the bulk of it, unless I'm forgetting one-off thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and post the link and just see who joins. Link is posted. Antonio, what were you going to say?
Huh? What was I going to say?
Yeah, were you going to say something?
No.
You sighed.
No.
You sighed. You made a noise. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually haven't even checked who's on. What else can I say? Not sure what else you thought about. Anything I had to say or want to add or disagree with or
I think.
Oh, you unrelated.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You were talking about idolatry lately and worship.
Oh, idolatry. Yeah.
If you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the meantime, yeah. I think that there is a propensity for a lot of Christians to talk about idolatry very loosey-goosey and sort of refer to any kind of disordered passion or attachment as idolatry, right? So, like, you know, like my wife could be an idol, my kids could be an idol, my car, my house, my job, my career, like anything that I'm like really into could be an idol, right? And I think that when you overdo that kind of talk and call everything that is just maybe a potentially unhealthy or disordered passion or attachment an idol, that either idolatry doesn't really exist anymore, or we are misusing that term. But at the same time, I don't really have like a crisp definition of like this is what idolatry really is, and
the worship of idols.
Well, yes, but like like who has a statue that they're like, yeah, this is my God and I worship it, and so maybe I just need some remedial education on idolatry, or I need to like crack open the divine code and reread those chapters and stuff, and I don't know, but I think that maybe what's more insidious is not necessarily idolatry in terms of the Noahide laws, but blasphemy. And I used to think about like how does blasphemy exist? Like who's cursing God? Like what? Like how is that happening?
Have you seen
Right?
the Calvinist memes?
Well, right, but but then I think I did kind of pick up from beliefs in God that make God out to be a monster. Like is that like that is um, a form of blasphemy, for instance, and Jacob used to say that a lot about it's like, oh, that's blasphemous, and I'm like, that sounds crazy. Like why? But it's because it's like this is what they teach about who God is, which is like totally uh, wrong. Like, and not only wrong, but just like is an affront and an insult to God. Um, and so I think that maybe blasphemy is more relevant than we might think, and maybe idolatry is less relevant than we might think these days. But um,
I would definitely say they're both
thoughts?
relevant. It's funny because on the Noahide group that I'm in, we kind of had a series of posts kind of surrounding this topic. Not idolatry directly, but it had to deal with the idea of enjoying life's pleasures or even
Mm-hmm.
just like indulging in entertainment. Either it was video games, watching
Yep.
TV, or reading books.
Yep.
And but basically, it kind of started out with some people because the first post was posted on the Sabbath, so there weren't any Jews around to kind of give the authoritative answer in that
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, it was just full of Noahides, and in that group, a lot of them are ex-Christians,
Right.
and I saw a lot of bad answers, but some of those answers were basically they kind of boiled down to if anything can separate you from God, then it's something that you should avoid, kind of a thing. And thank God there was kind of a pushback. I kind of pushed back myself, but there I wasn't the only one, and it was kind of just this sentiment that I think it's a Christian type of framing to want to like it reminded me of the whole you can't watch Harry Potter or read Harry Potter growing up,
Yep.
and it's like, oh, so should you read Lord of the Rings? And it's like no, there's a lot of things that we can do. There are a lot of things that we should do and shouldn't do. Um, but like one thing that's clear in Judaism is that a lot of what is in this world that God made is for us to enjoy, but to enjoy properly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a proper alignment. So it's not to really cut out anything that could separate you from God, because I actually do think literally anything could be made an idol. I think when I hear you say that, I'm thinking that you're thinking of this idea that because everything could be an idol, you have to be a really weird way about these things and maybe be unhealthily conscious about the ways in which you might slip into idolatry, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't think is very helpful or useful. Um, so yeah, I guess that kind of sums up that conversation on the group. I think it's kind of relevant to the whole blasphemy, idolatry. Well, more so the idolatry, because I guess if we're gonna get into the weeds of idolatry, you kind of have to ask like, well, what is worship? And I think worship isn't. It's not strictly the ceremonial type of practices, these rituals, like having idols, like traditional idolatry being bowing down to an idol and whatnot. I think in the modern world today, worship is expressed a lot differently.
Yeah.
But I,
So
I
here.
like I like I like Jordan Peterson's conception of worship, which is
Which.
basically that yeah, the whatever's at the top of your values hierarchy um, informs all of your acts that are basically working towards the top of that hierarchy. So it's
Yeah.
it's almost so the thing that's really interesting to me about this is it's almost a
Yep.
mirror to the misconceptions about Noahidism. You know, it's like, why don't you go to synagogue? Why don't you want to take on more, kind of a thing. Where
Yeah.
religiosity for a Noahide is really, I think, best captured by all the ways in which we conduct ourselves, in addition to prayer and studying Torah. So,
Yeah. I gotta ask, if Noahidism didn't exist, would you guys be atheists?
I mean, I was an atheist, so
Does being a Noahide fill a niche? Um, I mean, so that's a hard question to answer because, um,
the short answer is it depends.
well, the counterfactual, like if Noahidism didn't exist, like what does that actually mean? Like if Noahidism didn't exist, that means that like Judaism didn't exist, which probably means that Christianity didn't exist. It'd be like if the world didn't exist, would you guys be atheists? I'm like, I'm not really sure. Maybe like um, the premise is tough. Um, like I'll speak for myself. Um, if uh, I don't know. I mean, I considered, I kind of deconstructed and reconstructed into the Hebrew Bible, and then like didn't come out of it. And that was a framing thing where I was like, okay, if I read this Bible with the assumption that like Christianity is not true and the premises of Christianity are not true, um, what do I get? And I got a support of that position, right? Like again, like read Deuteronomy and just read it thinking that Judaism is true and Christianity is not true, and you will be like, oh, I can see why they would think that. Um, that's me. Now, I think for myself, it's not so much that like I like the functional atheism as much as I like not having to espouse and believe and act within Christian cosmology that's just like wrong. Period. Full stop. Like I like the fact that like reward and punishment is fundamental. It's like, ah, oh, that's a relief, you know? Like, because that's how, I mean, that feels like how the simulation has been programmed. There's reward and punishment. Um, there's a God, and he has a relationship with us unmediated, and we can talk to him and we repent to him, and like we don't need a mediator. So there's a bunch of things I think that are like intuitive, yes, and also like, um, oh, I don't know, like therapeutic, frankly, that work. And I don't think it's a cope because I think ultimately it's just like I don't agree with the premise that we're all doomed by from birth, and that that we have some sort of infinite um, debt that we have to repay to some angry, vengeful God who needs to get paid back. And but thank goodness he killed his own kid, um, and that's enough for him. He's like, okay, I killed my son, so I'm good with that. Like, I mean, it's just madness. It's just insane. So, um, anyways, now I'm gonna go off on like a rant, but like, um, it's it's maybe less about like, oh, it's kind of like a way for me to sort of maintain an atheism, and more from a way for me to escape the Christian prison. Um, anyway, we are behind in the comments now. Antonio, do you have any thoughts?
Well, What comes to mind is this quote that I can't remember its source. I could have swore it was like something that some Jewish sage said some long time ago, but it was something like the atheist who's only an atheist because he doesn't recognize the God of Israel is like a Jew. And I thought that was pretty cool because I felt like it described me
Yeah.
when I was an atheist.
Don says that I have a feeling there are a lot of people who attend Christian churches every Sunday, don't actually believe in the Trinity, but don't say so. They're already Noahides. I mean, I think that they don't realize that they don't believe in the Trinity because they don't understand the Trinity, because you can't understand the Trinity. And so they sort of just like believe in God. And so, excuse me. In that sense, like they're de facto Noahides. Oh, you'll like this one. Claire says that arguably Freemasons are Noahides.
Yeah,
Huge,
arguably.
huge if true. Don says, I read a book by a French man who was training to be a priest and instead became a Noahide in the 19th century. So this is happening before the media age. Yeah, that's true. But like, this is part of the accelerationism. Like, if it weren't for the internet, if it weren't for like the evolution of the internet and like the fact that there are counter missionary rabbis on YouTube, publishing their talks and lectures and everything that are ostensibly for the nation of Israel. But yet Gentiles can like, wander in and like listen and be like, oh my God, like that's interesting and compelling. And like, they're not out there trying to convert anybody, but they're trying to like retain their own people. And, so when I'm out there, having an argument in public, other people can, pay attention, and that's what happens. All right, what else? Islam is easier to believe, and that frees you from believing in the nonsense of the Trinity. I don't know. Like, I mean, the Muhammad being a prophet, like, that's kind of like a Jesus proposition too. Young Rod says there is an overlap with certain things like the Schofield Bible and Zionism, and Google says that Noahide became a thing in 1950. I mean, yes. So, I mean, there is an interesting phenomenon of the fact that Noahide as a phenomenon, an emergent thing and a movement is not super old, and comes out of some like specific Christian movements in particular, and has like kind of a disproportionate representation in, I think, the Philippines.
Yeah, a lot of
And
Noahides in the Philippines.
yeah, and I think I did have this discussion with somebody recently where I was kind of like not skeptical, but I was like, yeah, like we had these God-fearers during like the Roman Second Temple period, and then surprisingly, they all just disappeared when the temple was destroyed. The Jews went into exile and the diaspora, and then Christianity sort of emerged. So, what happened to all these Gentile God-fearers? Right?
Join or die.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. And so now, why is this a thing again? Is it just a
First Amendment.
coincidence? Is it right, or is it part of, Noahide accelerationism is messianic? It's about the fact that like the Messiah is maybe already here, very close. That could be part of the phenomenon, or it's just some goofy thing that will fall off. I don't know.
Hence, take your bets.
Yeah, yeah. We gotta set up a poly market. Um, right, so people can make money on this, so they can afford their apartments in Jerusalem. What does that mean? I do faith better than Antonio. I'm not sure.
I don't know what it means. So,
I don't know what it means. Um, I mean, I used to be Christian, so I suppose that gives me
oh, higher credentials kind of a thing.
a leg up, or I've got more to unlearn. I don't know. Antonio actually is probably more of a observant religious Noahide than I am, so uh, I wouldn't
It's not a contest.
I wouldn't argue with him. Everything's a contest. It's all a test. All right, I posted the link again.
That's okay. We've been going for an hour, so that's a
Yeah,
pretty
we filled the time.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know if well, I didn't know who exactly to expect. I
You never
remember
know.
I was a little surprised when Hezi mentioned or asked, when you guys doing the stream? It's like, what stream? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We talked about it.
Well, I mean, let me go back to Discord and see what else we were talking about, though.
But I think if we're gonna have I'm glad we were doing this now. It'd be
Yeah,
cool if we could somehow arrange having me, you, Billy, maybe even Hezi and Jacob and Yosef. But those, that'd be really hard to get all those people on at the same time.
I think I think one of the things that we were talking about um, in the Discord when this came up was like just again like trying to figure out the what's the Noahide community structure, um, and like the communal whatever, and how much that's important or not. Um,
Oh yeah, I guess that is something we didn't talk about too much. Uh,
yeah,
I
I mean, I
remember, yeah.
maybe at the beginning of the conversation, I was saying about like how is the dominant pattern going to be the sort of Gentile section in the synagogue, or an actual like here's a Noahide building faith community that like might have a attending rabbi or something, but like is largely going to be like forced bias.
Um, so obviously it's just all speculation, but it is fun to speculate.
Of course.
But when I talked to Billy, I told him that I saw a relatively larger calling with lowercase n Noahidism
Yep.
or uppercase Noahides. Uh, so basically, engaging with the world, the secular world,
Mm-hmm.
interfaith discussions, and even non-religious or religiously unaffiliated peoples,
Yep.
and the culture and politics and whatnot. Uh, that over us having like our Noahide communities where we meet up. Uh, I don't want to like imply that I think it's not important because I do hope for that within my lifetime. Um, but who knows if it will? But I personally think what's going to happen, again, just speculation. But I actually think that the Noahide movement is still going to be small. And let's just say like the end of the timeline is when the Messiah shows up.
Yeah.
I think Christianity will still be around, Islam will
Yep.
still be around,
Sure.
a lot of other religions will still be around,
Yep.
and I think Noahidism will have grown, but it still will be pretty small. But what I kind of expect will happen that'll be kind of different from now
Yep.
is that the secular world as we know it would be more. I don't know if it'll be a majority or just enough, like a critical mass of people would kind
In
of
the
be in this.
in the
Sorry, go
Messianic
ahead.
age.
No, just prior to it, like just prior to the Messiah showing up.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, it. Like I said, I know it's not really fruitful to kind of talk about what the world might or might not look like, but
Yeah.
that's just kind of what I think is going to happen. I don't know your thoughts on
Um, I mean, what degree of Mason are you going to be when the Messiah shows up?
it. Well, I expect to be at least a full-fledged member where I can go from lodge to lodge, at the very least, bare minimum.
So that's like first degree, right?
I think so. Yeah, first degree.
You're still just a novice.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Well, let us know all of the dark secrets.
I wouldn't be a good Mason if I did that.
Right. I know. You got to join to find out. So now excuse me. Now my interest is piqued. Curiosity.
Me
Um,
too. And the reason why it was even worth bringing up in this discussion
yeah.
is because I think I've made it clear in the Discord, but I'll just say it that I think the Noahide path today is pretty hard as far as like having to follow a religious path
Mm-hmm.
without being surrounded by those who share that path, and
Yeah.
and also the fact that it's not streamlined for you to just be walking into synagogue. Like you can, like I think for most synagogues you can do that. Talking
Yeah.
about Orthodox synagogues, of course.
Yeah.
But there is no like, oh, this is where the Noahides sit. Like it's not like that.
Yeah. Sure. Right.
Or even just these are where the Gentiles sit or something like that.
Well, that
Um,
same thing, right?
yeah,
Probably.
yeah. So and yet I still think it's entirely possible to lead a fulfilling religious life as a Noahide. But you kind of have to. I don't know a better way to put it, but it's basically you kind of have to like check your boxes. It's like, do you
Yep.
have community? Doesn't matter if it's religious or not. It's like check. It's like you married, you have kids, check. Uh, it's like, are you involved in some capacity, even if it's online, whether they're Noahides or Jews
Yeah.
who support your path? It's like check. And the more you check, the better it is. And the Freemason approach, or at least me exploring Freemasonry, is checking a box of community, being around other people who also believe and worship God,
Yeah.
and then they're very active and involved with the community, with charity and also with families. So that matters.
Agreed. Should we let Claire up?
What's that?
Should we let Claire in?
Oh no, I would never let Claire on the stream.
You would not?
No, no.
Okay. She's here. If I add her, you're gonna leave?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I'd give her
I
a
have a
chance.
good. I actually have a good reason to leave now. I mean, it's. I have to get up at a disgusting hour of the morning, but
All right. All
um,
right. Well, if you want to leave, I'll bring Claire up, and I'll see how entertaining this is for the next 20, 30 minutes. And then we should do this again soon.
all right, sounds good, Johnson. I'm glad we did the stream. Uh,
Excuse me.
I I'm looking forward to having another one. Hopefully with Billy, because Billy has some really good insights to share, especially as far as how it relates with his own personal experience with the Noahide thing.
I agree, man. Yeah, I mean, oh, we should get Billy to come on, even like the two of you, set it up.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Okay. All right. See you later.
See ya.
Claire.
Hi, Jonathan. Everybody seems to be having the flu all over the world.
I know. What is this? Yeah, it's like a sinus infection I have.
It's COVID again, but this time without them making a fuss. Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, you guys. I think. What's his name? David. No, it's not. Mark Parker was complaining about it, the flu and everything, and a few other people dotted around the world. But yes, I'm here to answer your theological questions. I really want people to understand that I'm not Muslim. Okay, I have this avatar, but I kind of have to attach myself to some kind of branding, right? And but I'm saying it's only the legal side of things. For all Americans, you can still, go to your temple, synagogue, church, or whatever, but the laws would have to be, a certain way, which I really think if I'm prepared to live under them, they shouldn't be that bad. I mean, I think people get the some sort of idea that I'm this, puritanical person, but I'm not. Jonathan.
I'm still here. I'm
Right. You're coughing.
fighting the cough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I just want people to understand that my standards are conveniently, reassuringly low, because I sort of know what Westerners are like at the moment.
So I wonder, Claire, like, is the problem that secular Coranism is simply just not different enough from the status quo?
Right. I mean, the thing. I know you don't know it from the way Muslims behave, but I do keep going on that chapter 2, verse 256 of the Quran, that says there is no compulsion in belief. Truth stands clear from error, means that God has given everyone free will. And even though he does threaten people in the Quran that they're going to go to hell, the point is that if you're an atheist and you read the Quran, you shouldn't be, it shouldn't operate on your mind. But I notice that a lot of people who call themselves atheists or agnostic get very offended reading the Quran because it threatens them with hell. But I don't know what the big deal is because, previously, when people took Christianity seriously, they would be telling each other that non-Christians don't get to heaven, or the wrong kind of Christian won't get to heaven. So I don't understand it myself because when I read the Quran, I was atheist. So obviously, I cannot take any threats that I would go to hell seriously. But I think people are just basically very confused about what they are, whether they're male or female, atheist or theist or agnostic. They haven't got these categories clear in their mind. So they're, the different things according to their mood. I think that's the best way of explaining it.
So, Claire, why Coranism as opposed to a Noahidism?
Because secular Quranism uncompromisingly supports the First Amendment, which which would make it more attractive to Americans than the Noahide laws. I did some research on the Noahide laws when it was established as Education and Sharing Day in 1978. So when it was first promulgated, they listed all 7 of the laws, and then I guess somebody noticed that it would infringe the First Amendment, so they removed all mention of the 7 Noahide laws. But now it's still known as Education and Sharing Day.
How does it affect the First Amendment?
Forbidding idolatry and blasphemy would infringe. I mean, America is known as not having, blasphemy laws and
Right.
and giving freedom of worship. So you say no idolatry and blasphemy, then you're going to get punished for it. I mean, in Europe under Christian kingdoms, there would be blasphemy laws, and people would, be burnt at the stake for denying the Trinity and all kinds of things. So witchcraft. So that there virtually was no freedom of belief in European kingdoms or Christendom, as people used to say, and this meant that anyone born in a Christian kingdom who wasn't a Jew would be deemed to be following the religion of their king. To this day, I know of I know that in Iceland, if you're born, you're automatically assumed to be Lutheran, which is the religion of the Danish king, right? And you basically have to opt out of it if you think you're some other religion. You would have to say, but it is basically assumed that any subject born in a Christian kingdom would follow the religion of their king. And once upon a time you didn't really have a choice about the matter, and questioning it could lead to death. I mean that presumably was what the founding fathers were rejecting, because the Declaration of Independence did speak long and hard about the tyranny of the tyranny of kings. And of course, the whole point of Christianity, if you look at it historically, from the standpoint of Constantine the Great, was to protect his divine right to rule. And, obviously, well, I don't think Constantine did it for fun. And we know from the history of Rome before Constantine Christianized Rome, was that there were lots of civil wars between Roman generals who wanted to be emperor of Rome. So there would be years such as the year of the 3 emperors, or the year of the 5 emperors, which is basically all these people trying to be emperor of Rome and not quite succeeding. And obviously the Roman imperial cult, which required Romans to worship their emperors after they died, was not believed in. I mean, yes, there was the Roman Greek pantheon of Zeus and all the other gods, but obviously they didn't believe in it. And I think the whole point of organized religion is to organize the minds of people, because way back then they sort of understood that the only way to make people do the right thing is to make them believe that they're going to be rewarded if they're not rewarded in this life, they would be rewarded in the next. Now, I can't remember the name of the Chinese political scientist who complained that a lot of people seem to know what the right thing was, but they won't do it. I don't even know which century it was. But I know I did read about it, and it seems universally true that people know what they're supposed to do, but they won't do it because I guess they don't want to be punished, executed, lose status, and have their economic interests undermined. So they don't do or say things that they know to be right. believing that it would not reward them to do so. So there was a time when everybody was expected to believe in God, and if you didn't, you were equated with being, immoral and not to be trusted. Because the thing is that they say, yes, you probably lie that you believe in God, but if you thought you could get away with it, you would murder, you would steal, you would rape, if you thought you could get away with it. So I think there was a time. I think this theism, deism debate that the early Americans were supposed to have was really to avoid being accused of being either a Muslim or an atheist. So they kind of said, "Oh, are you a theist or are you a deist?" And really, even now the categories are unclear. But I think it was just a way of protecting, the people who wanted to discuss religion at the time for being accused of atheism or being, not a Christian.
Okay.
But I mean, let's say secular Quranism was happened yesterday. I mean, people would still, be going to all their places of religious worship. Or communities or whatever, right? I mean, it wouldn't affect their religious attendance. I mean, what it would affect, it would be the treatment of unmarried parents and, non-parents, because the married parent would be privileged over non-parents, and unmarried parents who would be treated as sex offenders. I'll not mince my words about,
sex offenders.
Pardon?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty drastic.
Well, yes, but actually, this was something that the early Americans also did. They would physically chastise women who got themselves knocked up.
Yeah. Claire, this is a very random question, but what kind of car do you drive?
I don't drive.
You don't drive?
Well, I did pass my driving test. I did drive, but I don't drive. Why do you ask?
How do you move? How do you move about?
I have very good public transport where I live.
Okay.
I see. But what car would you like me to have?
Oh, I wouldn't. I was just curious. If you were to have a car, what kind of car would you have?
I guess it wouldn't be a big car. I wasn't very good at parking.
No.
My late husband's car.
Okay. What was the brand of that car?
Okay, it was a Jaguar.
A Jaguar. Have you ever driven on the Autobahn?
No, but I know that there's no speed limit, right?
Not. It's sort of a judgment call. You can still be ticketed on the Autobahn for going too fast, but I think it has to do with conditions. It's an interesting road.
Right. Would I speed or not? Is that what you're asking me?
No. I mean, if you want to volunteer whether or not you would speed, that would be interesting, but I'm not asking, no.
Well, I know that in America now, what the government does is use speeding tickets as a form of, income for local government.
Sure.
So
is that unique to America?
No, it's common here.
Sure.
So I mean, even the best, most careful drivers, my school friend's mother, she got, speeding tickets and stuff for traffic violations because of all the speed, cameras and stuff. But then, you get, computers in your car that can detect speed cameras, so you know when to slow down and stuff, right?
Yep. Have you ridden in a autonomous vehicle before?
Oh, you mean a driverless car?
Yeah,
No, I haven't. Have you?
I have. It was a Jaguar.
Oh, right.
Hmm.
So you were the only passenger and you
I
weren't
was
driving.
the only soul in the vehicle, and it
How
drove me
did
to
that
where I needed to
feel?
be. The first time I went with a friend who had done it before, and so that made it easier. And the second time, I was like, I've done it before. Um, it felt kind of fun. Felt like the future. And what was interesting, excuse me, is that subsequent car share rides, I was disappointed not to be in the autonomous vehicle, and I sort of resented the fact that a human being was driving the car. So I was immediately spoiled, or somehow had my worldview scrambled by the autonomous driver. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, um, well, I mean, it can be a problem if you don't like the driving of the driver, right? And
That's
you,
true.
I,
And excuse me, yeah, the autonomous driver is very relaxed. They're not talking on the phone. They're not um, doing interesting driving tricks to try to impress you. It's very relaxed.
it's a responsible driver,
It's very responsible. Mm-hmm. Yep.
and it doesn't
Um,
go too fast or too slow.
no. I was concerned about its timing in terms of making a lane change before an upcoming turn, and I thought, well, okay, you don't have a lot of options here. We're getting close, but still managed to do it, and would have had that same problem with a human being too.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting phenomenon.
Does it talk to you?
No, I mean there's a little bit of talking at the beginning, at the end, but it's not trying to make small talk during the trip. No.
But if you wanted to talk to it, would it talk back?
I think it would. Yeah. Um, I I I had a short drive and I wasn't interested in making talk with it, but I also know that it's just a robot. So um,
Well, with AI, I think a lot of people have developed a dependence on it because it's always polite. It never gets bored with your obsessions, does it? It doesn't say no, not that thing again. Why don't we talk about something else, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's true. That's true. But I try to avoid having that kind of a need in my life.
Yeah, I mean, actually, DeepSeek, which is Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
they it does tell you when you've been naughty because it'll answer all the questions, but then it kind of reads its own answer and then it deletes it if it thinks it's inappropriate, and then it says let's talk about something else. So
Yeah,
so I guess
yeah.
it does do that.
Sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's true. That's true.
Hmm.
Um, well, before I have another coughing fit, um, I am probably going to go take some cough medicine and head to bed. But
Mhm.
it was nice of you to come on, Claire, and
Well,
talk.
thank you for having me. I hope
Of
I
course.
managed to answer your question and make it very clear that it is not a religion. Secular Quranism is only a legal system like EU law, which is a legal system, and obviously you need to operate within it if you want to, do stuff in the EU. But you don't have to agree with it or support
Right.
it or even approve of the EU as an institution. I had to learn it as a law student. So, so,
Right.
so that's what I mean about secular Quranism, and I think I've kind of explained the most obvious change about it. And the other thing that might interest people is that usury would be banned, and the consequence of that would be a significant lowering of property prices, and the ability of governments and individuals to default on their usurious loans, particularly if they've already repaid the principal. And a flat rate income tax of 20%.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe you should make a website.
I should make a what?
A website.
I sort of there is something called secularcoronism.blogspot.com, which creates a virtual America, and how these rules would apply, and there'd be sitcoms and satirical stories, and pamphlets explaining each aspect, such as the legalization of licensed brothels in red light districts, and all the changes that would come about that some people might approve of, I guess. So I hope you'll have a look at it. It's intended to be humorous and not,
It sounds funny.
I hope so.
Secularcoronism.com is available, I think, to purchase. You should register it. You should make a excuse me, a website with all of your talking points, and maybe you'll get some devotees.
Right. Yes, good idea. Well, thank you for having the confidence in the future of this project to suggest it. Thank you very much, Jonathan, and I hope you get well soon.
Thank you so much, Claire. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.